All right, welcome back. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to sketch this cosecant function. But like I said in the previous video, what we're going to do is we're going to start by graphing the reciprocal function, which is sine. Okay, so let's start by graphing this. Okay, so let's go through the analysis of what we know about sine, right? So first we want to solve this equal to when that's equal to pi, or 0 and 2 pi, right? Because that's the period, right? We're trying to find the interval, right? So sine goes from 0 to 2 pi. So what we're going to do is we're going to solve this for 0 and 2 pi. So let's do that. So x plus pi over 4 is equal to 0. And x plus pi over 4 is equal to 2 pi. And again, this is going to imply that x is equal to negative pi over 4. And this is going to be true when what? X is equal to so it'd be 7 pi over 4. Okay? So now that we got those, we know that one cycle of the sine function goes from negative pi over 4 to 7 pi over 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to sketch the graph. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, and we know that the period is 2 pi. So sine, starts at 0, so it's going to be pi over 4. So let's do negative pi over 4, pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, pi, 5 pi over 4, 3 pi over 2, and same thing over here, negative pi over 2, negative 3 pi over 4, negative pi, negative 5 pi over 4. Okay. So let's do this. So the amplitude is going to be 2, so this is going to, the sine function is going to bounce between 2 and negative 2. So we got 2, negative 2. So here it's going to be 0. Right? And then it's going to go up to 2, and then it's going to go down back to 0, and then it's going to go down to negative 2, and then it's going to go back to 0. Okay? And then I'm going to do a few more, right? So this is going to go to there, there, there. Okay, so I'm going to just do a dotted line here. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so there's the sine function. Now, here's where I'm going to assign the vertical asymptotes. Okay? Because we know the vertical asymptotes here are going to be what? Think about it. This is 1 over sine. So when sine is 0, there's going to be a vertical asymptote. So where is sine 0? Well, at negative pi over 4, at pi over 4, or not pi over 4, but hold on a second here. Oh, I messed up. How did I mess up? Hold on a second. Oh, see, I should have went through the process. See, I wasn't. So if we look at the 4 points, see, this is where I made a mistake. I was jumping the gun. So 0, so it's at pi over 4, right? Oops. So a negative pi over 4, it's 0. But where's the next point? Remember, the period is 2 pi for sine, right? So 2 pi divided by 4 is pi over 2. So the next point, see, I was jumping the gun because I was looking at the line without thinking. So I'm going to have to move these. So, my bad. Okay, so let's do this again. Okay, so at pi over 4, negative pi over 4, and there, and there, and there. Okay, so let's redo this. So pi over 4, but then negative pi over 4 plus pi over 2. Pi over 2 is the same as 2 pi over 4. So negative pi yeah, so negative pi over 4 plus 2 pi over 4 is going to be pi over 4, and at pi over 4 it's going to go up to 2. And then if you had another 2 pi over 4, that's going to be 3 pi over 4. So 3 pi over 4 And that's going to go back down to 0. And then the next point, so 3 pi over 4 plus 2 pi over 4 is going to be 5 pi over 4. And that's where it's going to go down to negative 2. And then 5 pi over 4 plus 2 pi over 4 is 7 pi over 4, where it goes back to 0. So those are our 5 points. So that's the part that I skipped, and that's where I made my mistake. So at negative pi over 4, we're right there, so that's going to be at 0. And then at pi over 4, it's going to be up to 2, so that's going to be here. And then at 3 pi over 4, it's going to be back to 0. And then at 5 pi over 4, it'll be a negative 2. Okay, and then I'll keep this going. And then at 7 pi over 4, it'll be back to 0. And then if we go here, it'll be negative 2 here, and then 0 here. So, okay, so now we got it right. So this is going to look more like this. Like that. Okay, there we go. Now it makes sense. So now, and that's how I caught my mistake, was I was looking at the values of sine here, and then that's when it dawned on me something wasn't right. So now wherever sine is 0, right? So sine of this is 0, right? At pi over 4. And then the period is 2 pi. So if I'm here at pi over, negative pi over 4, right? So it's 0 here. So that means wherever it's 0, there's going to be a vertical asymptote. So that means there's a vertical asymptote here. There's a vertical asymptote here. There's a vertical asymptote here. And there's a vertical asymptote here. So now we know where our vertical asymptotes are, but we also know where the graph of the cosecant function equals the graph of the sine function, and that's where sine is equal to 1. And sine is equal to 1, right? So here we go. So sine is equal to 1. Where? So when is sine equal to cosecant? At 90 degrees, right? So sine of 90 degrees is 1. So that means at pi over 2. So that means x would have to be pi over 4. Lo and behold, look at that. That's where the maximum is. So, but again, we're multiplying by 2, so it's right there. So it's the cosecant function is going to intersect, right? And what happens as we go off to the left? What happens to sine? So from 0, right, from pi over 4, negative pi over 4, so sine of 0 is 0. which goes off to what? Positive infinity, right? So over here, it's going off to positive infinity. As x gets closer and closer to negative pi over 4, sine is going to 0, which means this is going to positive infinity. But what if you, and sine isn't even sine is odd. Right? So as we're getting closer and closer to negative pi over 4, this is going to positive infinity. Okay? It comes, so it's going from here, it's going off to positive infinity this way. Now what's it happening over here as you get closer to 3 pi over 4? Well, as you get closer to 3 pi over 4, you're getting close to this being what? Well, if you plug 3 pi over 4, you're going to get an asymptote, but also this is going to go to positive infinity. Like that. And then likewise over here, you're going to have something that goes like this. And then over here. And so, at that point, you can just kind of like disregard the dotted line, right? And that's how you sketch the reciprocal function.